Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners YouTube Live. And I almost said podcast there. Again, you saw clicking there for a second because I was like,
it's so Live. Seared into your brain by now after years and years of doing the podcast.
Yeah. So anyways, we're here. Obviously, the national title game between Kansas and North Carolina is kicking off, or about to tip off, not kick off, here pretty quickly at 8:25, 8:30-ish. Looks like they have a very New Orleans band going. I don't know, jazz band. Would that be a jazz band that's playing at this juncture for the national anthem or something?
I'm sure it would be, yes. And if it's New Orleans, there's a good chance it's jazz.
Yeah. So that said, look, hey, we're here to talk Oklahoma football, and we're here to talk Oklahoma sports and athletics with you all. I'm here with Parker Thune. My name is Brandon Drumm. Let's get it started real quickly. Parker, I think we have to start with Peter Woods and Peyton Kirkland, right? I think that has to be the reigning theme of this this YouTube Live, almost said podcast again, because Peter Woods is a long shot.
Longest of long shots.
But he wasn't in. OU wasn't in his top six, but yet here they are sitting in their top four. So they've obviously made some sort of move with the 5-star defensive lineman out of Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. Look, the Roll Tide is probably going to be the leader here, but they are the leader.
Yes.
His dad went to Alabama, didn't necessarily play from my understanding, but they went to Alabama. His family did. He has a very strong relationship with Coach Bates. So that is kind of where there's a lot going on there. Chavis, Bates, and Venables have made a miraculous jump there. I don't know what you've been hearing, and we'll get to you in a second on that, but I've heard that he's going to take a visit. Like, that is happening. Now, is it a visit in the sense of Levius Overton, or is it an actual visit in the sense of, David Stone, Caden McDonald, T.A. Cunningham, Heaven Brown Schuler, all those other elite defensive linemen, Derek LeBlancs of the world that have shown up to Oklahoma a time or two. That is yet to be seen. But still, to go from not even being a blip on his radar to being in his top four, staff's a little different. It's recruiting defensively, huh?
Yeah, well, and I will say this too, Brandon. Yes, Alabama is the odds-on favorite to land Peter Woods. But if there is one human being that can talk Peter Woods out of playing for Alabama, I would suppose that would be Todd Bates, because Todd Bates himself played at the University of Alabama. So,
yeah, it's true.
If it's not Alabama, it's probably OU. But again, that is a minuscule chance that it's not Alabama at the end of the day. He's had that Alabama offer since he was a freshman. That's always been his dream school. I remember talking to him back in, May or June of 2020. So it's been 2 years at this point. And it's always kind of felt like Alabama or bust for Peter Woods. I'm honestly surprised the process has lasted this long without a commitment from him. Now, again, though, what's interesting is that Todd Bates has that relationship with Woods that dates back to the days at Clemson. And also he's got the connection in that he played defensive line at Alabama. So I'll reiterate, if there's one guy that can talk Peter Woods out of Alabama, it's probably Todd Bates. But you got to get him on campus. And you got to get him on campus for a serious visit. You have to actually get him to make the effort to come to Oklahoma, not just tell you he's going to, because you remember, Brandon, at the beginning of March, there was that buzz that Peter Woods might be visiting on March 5th. Well, lo and behold, he ends up going to Alabama that weekend instead. So
it was his birthday weekend. There's that. We will throw that in there.
You referenced the LT Overton situation. LT Overton scheduled the visit, went to A&M, canceled the OU visit and committed to A&M. So I think what I would like to see happen is for OU to try and get Peter Woods on campus before he takes his official with Alabama. Because at this point, he's seen so much of Alabama that it doesn't really matter whether you get the last impression in that recruitment.
Right.
He's already naturally seen so much more of Alabama than he has of Oklahoma, or that he will of Oklahoma. So one way or another, you got to hit a home run on the visit if you want to have even a shot in the dark with this kid. So a timeline to me doesn't really matter. I just think it's got to come before he takes the official visit to Alabama, because if he schedules the official visit to Alabama before he schedules the OV to Oklahoma, then you run the risk of him taking the OV to Alabama and calling it a wrap.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I know we've got some people in the chat that have instantly said, at this point, I don't see OU ever beating out any SEC schools, even Ohio State and Clemson, for any top defensive lineman. They can't see it happening. It's Mr. Cowboy Sooner on Twitter, Sean Stapleton.
So is he a Cowboy or is he a Sooner?
I think he's a Dallas Cowboy fan, but he's also
okay.
He lives in Georgia, so he absolutely takes the most negative outlook possible on anything OU related defensively, which is fine. I like to give him a hard time about it though, because everything he says is completely, utterly, it's the end of the world. They're never going to do this or that. And then when you tell him, hey, well, look at these guys, he's like, oh, well, you know, they a time or two they've gotten guys. But I'll say this. The Peter Wood situation for Alabama is a lot like the David Stone situation for Oklahoma. I think that's probably a very nice comparison there, where you don't see it, where he's been to OU a billion times already.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going now. At face value, that comparison's a little odd, but now that you're expanding upon it, yes, I see where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Virtually, I mean, everybody knows. I talked to David Stone again today, and I said, so how was Florida? He goes, I mean, it's all right. They didn't offer me. And if they did offer me, you know, whatever type deal. And then you obviously have him visiting Texas A&M this weekend, which instantly is going to have OU fans going, oh, no. It's David Stone, folks. I think you can take a deep breath on this one. He actually talked to Coach Bates on Saturday, still loving Oklahoma. Actually said that he's looking to get to OU for the spring game. So that would be another big deal. And as you can see, he's taking all these visits. And I know OU fans are going, if he was so locked into Oklahoma, why is David Stone taking all these visits? Well, family members around him said, look, before you commit, you have to take visits. So why not just load up on him as much as you can and get it over with?
Get him out the way.
Get him out the way.
I think we all know where David Stone's going to end up.
Like, well, everybody has a pretty good idea where he's going to end up. On the Peyton Kirkland situation, 4-star offensive lineman out of Orlando, Dr. Phillips High School, somebody that I've known really well for like the past 2.5 years. Got to know him after we visited the high school a couple of years ago, and now we've made multiple stops there. Our boss, Brian Bishop, and I, when we do our Florida tour, I will go with him or by myself, one or the other, and we will instantly make a stop at Dr. Phillips High School to see, because they always have a lot of talent. They're going to have 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5-star guys on their team. Going to be really loaded, super talented program, super talented school. And it's literally right across the street. The coolest thing about Dr. Phillips High School is while they're working out on the football field is like right here. There's a street on the back side of the visitor side, and right across the street is Experianos. What is it? Oh my gosh, with the lightning bolt. What's it called? I'm old. I'm too old for that. Help me out here.
I'm not following.
Harry Potter, right?
Oh, well, yeah. If it's Harry
Universal
Potter,
Studios,
that's
yeah,
completely out of
yeah.
my
So
wheelhouse.
so yeah, me too. But the castle and stuff is right across the street, right along the fence line by their high school. And then the roller coaster is right there. So as they're practicing, all they do is hear people screaming, going up and down and having fun. And Peyton's always like, it's the worst thing ever. We're
Hey, I
over
tell
here
you what,
sweating.
if I ever need to spy on a Dr. Phillips practice, that roller coaster sounds like my Gaylord Hall balcony.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it's a very good reference. Who's starting at quarterback for Dr. Phillips High School? For those of you who don't know, he's referencing
What gloves are Peyton Kirkland wearing?
OU Daily on their uh, they I don't know if everybody, but people probably don't remember it, to be honest. Last year was a big deal. We got in trouble as a whole media, but it was well done by the OU Daily looking over there to figure out what was going on. So kudos to them on that. Uh, but back to Peyton Kirkland, he named that he's going to be visiting Oklahoma this next week, or excuse me, in 2 weeks for the spring game, April 21st through the 24th. That wasn't the case for a little bit. The funny story behind all this, it's kind of hilarious. He had it scheduled last week. Okay. He didn't do what he was told to do by his mother, kind of didn't clean his room and do a couple other things. So she told him that visit's off. You were no longer taking that visit. Coach Venables calls, saves the day for Peyton Kirkland. So instantly after they get off the phone with Coach Venables, he then goes and announces it. Right after he announces, he calls me and tells me the story of how it all became about because the visit got canceled. So I never reported it.
Quite literally some dirty laundry happening here.
Dirty laundry happened there, man. That is one of the funniest recruiting things I've ever been told in my life. Was my mom told me I can't take the visit. I had to cancel it. Coach Venables called. I got to go now. She's going to unground me for the OU spring game. So good news for Oklahoma as Peyton Kirkland gets to come up, and he's bringing a couple of his teammates as well. So a couple of 2025 guys, quarterback, I believe a defensive back as well. Both of them are going to be highly touted guys as we move forward, or as they move forward in their recruiting process. But everybody wants to lean on Florida with Peyton Kirkland, and I'm here to tell you guys, don't discount Alabama and Oklahoma. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling y'all, don't do it. We'll see. We'll see. No, you're not going to go for it?
Never mind. I'm not going to say what I wanted to say there, but no, I mean, as far as the Peyton Kirkland, Derek LeBlanc, Malik Bryant situation, I think what's intriguing about that is obviously they're all committing on the same day, right? July 23rd. And to some, the expectation is that they're all going to commit to the same spot. They're all going to go to Florida.
No,
but
no,
I don't think either you or I get the sense that that's what's on the horizon. I think there will be a
you may get 2 for 1.
Yeah, a parting of the paths to a certain extent between those three. They're not all announcing to the same place.
I will say this just real quick and let you finish real quick. Peyton said that Malik, I guess, reached out to Oklahoma and he may be coming up on the visit as well. So we'll see. I'm still trying to confirm that.
Wow. Well, and you add that into the reality that Jacoby Fowler and Brayshawn Williams are trying to talk Cormani McClain into coming up for an OU visit, and interesting storylines out of the state of Florida as far as recruiting goes for the Sooners. How about the other Peyton of note here, Peyton Bowen, who took his third unofficial visit of the year to Oklahoma? Third unofficial visit since he committed to Notre Dame on New Year's Day?
Yeah. Notre Dame fans are worried, and rightfully so right now. Obviously his brother, 2024 defensive back, Eli Bowen, picked up an offer. We hinted about that, on here, on the podcast, on the board. We've hinted about it for about a week and a half. And I'm here to tell you all, we had a hunch that it was going to happen, and it did. Obviously, Peyton and Eli showed up with their mother, Amy. They came up on the visit, did some academic stuff, but they really wanted to make sure that Eli understood that Oklahoma's offer was legit, it was meaningful, and that they really wanted Eli Bowen to be a part of their program. And it's not just a Peyton Bowen thing. It is Peyton doesn't come to Oklahoma, Eli Bowen, they want him as well, no matter what. So that tells you right there that it's not just to pick up where I think what Oklahoma's going to do, and I don't know this for a fact now, so this is just me guessing. Oklahoma's probably going to go and say, well, Peyton, Eli, if they wanted your brother so bad, why did they wait so long? It seems like they waited the second that we started recruiting both of you guys and getting in with you guys. Now they're offering the brother to seem to kind of hold on to you. And I think that's where Oklahoma's kind of making that play right. Like, hey, pay attention. Look at how the cards are being played. One team seems legitimate, the other doesn't. Now, I'm not saying Notre Dame isn't legitimate because I believe they are legitimate. I think the timing, though, leaves it open for programs to use that against Notre Dame. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And I also think if you look across the rest of Notre Dame's class, which is the number one class right now in 2023, Peyton Bowen's not the only guy that's kind of looking around either. Look at five-star edge Keon Keeley. Exact same things going on. He's taking other visits. He's hearing the pitches from all comers. And right now, I don't think there are many across the recruiting industry that expect that Keon Keeley's commitment is going to stick with Notre Dame at this point. Because, like, if you're committed somewhere, you're generally not. I mean, you may take a visit here, there just for the heck of it, but to do the type of stuff that Keon Keeley and Peyton Bowen have done over the last couple of months suggests that you're not 100% sold on your destination. And I don't understand why that is with Notre Dame in particular, because Marcus Freeman is a phenomenal recruiter. And you would figure, I mean, you take the example of Tyson Ford in the last cycle, where he was silent committed to Oklahoma for about 48 hours till Marcus Freeman took the defensive coordinator job at Notre Dame, got on the horn with him. And a week later, Tyson Ford was pledged to Notre Dame. And I mean, shut it down. I mean, that was it. So I'm curious as to why this is the trend right now at Notre Dame. And I don't necessarily think there's an answer. It could be as simple as coincidence, but that is something to monitor. No doubt. Is that situation with Keon Keeley as well as, well, yeah, the bowl game might have something to do with it as well. But yeah, I mean, OU's trending really strong right now for Peyton Bowen. I think what's going to be really telling, Brandon, is Oklahoma's spring game is on April 23rd. Notre Dame's spring game is also on April 23rd. Where will Peyton Bowen be on April 23rd?
Right now, Notre Dame. We'll see how that plays out. And if I'm Oklahoma, I kind of, you want to continue to play the culture card, the card where you're the good guy in all of this. And look, I don't know if everything Oklahoma does is pretty genuine. Like, this staff is 100% genuine in everything they do. So if they tell Peyton, go ahead, you've already told them you're going to take a visit there, Oklahoma means well, and they mean by go take it, because you said you were going to take a visit, hold up on your end of the bargain there. Now, on the flip side, if he comes up to you and says, hey, we want to I would love to take a visit for your spring game, get to go hang out with my guy, Jackson Arnold, my dude, Ashton Cozart, and a couple of other guys that are going to be coming up, I think Oklahoma would be like, come on with it. like I can't see them saying don't come. So there's that. I know a lot of people also have questions about back to that Derek LeBlanc, because there's been a couple of them. Derek LeBlanc and Peyton Kirkland, Steve Wiltfong, and a confidence in his crystal ball. I'll put you like this. Like, I've talked to Steve, and he's said he could see both of them end up in Oklahoma. But right now, I think almost anybody that picks Derek LeBlanc to Florida is probably about their confidence level cannot be very high with that pick. But with Peyton and Florida, the way he tweets, the amount of times that he's ended up in Gainesville, I think you could be fairly confident in that or feel confident. I do think the fact that he's visiting Oklahoma randomly out of the blue, and Oklahoma was that one team that everybody thought, whoa, if anybody's going to come up and jump on Florida, it's going to be Oklahoma. And now he's visiting Oklahoma. He's going to do I guess you would call it an individual workout at Alabama right before he visits Oklahoma again. So literally within 45 days, he will be at Oklahoma twice and will have spent a week in Norman, literally. So there's that. And then there's the Derek LeBlanc situation. And that one's a little bit more interesting. LeBlanc and Florida are very tight. LeBlanc in Alabama is tight. He's got a lot of family down at Miami. Okay. He's got a lot of family. Obviously, his family lives in the Kissimmee area, Osceola High School. So Florida makes sense. Miami makes sense. Okay. He has connections in Norman. He's going to visit OU 21st through the 25th with his dad again. That's another 4 or 5 days in Norman. He's following it up by visiting Oklahoma May 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So they will be back in Oklahoma again for 5 more days. Now, what they do in between there is I think they're going to visit Miami. I think they're going to visit Florida a couple of times. I think they're going to try to make things right. I do think they're going to take an official to both programs before July 23rd. The interesting thing about all of this is all those visits to OU are unofficial for Derek LeBlanc. They're unofficial visits. They do not have an official visit picked yet. So you can either look at that as a problem or a plus, and we don't know. And that's how well they played their cards, that we don't know. We know they're picking on July 23rd, right? But we don't know if he's going to get that official visit. They say they're going to get official visit in no matter what to you. But we don't know when. And if they don't know when and we don't know when, how confident can you be in all that type of stuff? That said, I think Florida, Oklahoma, and Miami are just punching this thing out right now for Derek. It's quite the battle. It's going to be a fun one to watch. But back to the Peyton Bowen thing. I mean, Parker, how do you see this thing playing out? I do know that Lee Davis and his mother spent an inordinate amount of time together. They're both kind of around the same age, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to say that because I think obviously Peyton's mom is older than Lee, but they seem to get along pretty well from what I heard, a couple of sources. I think that helps Oklahoma. I don't know how much, but how what's your overall gauge of that whole Peyton Bowen, Notre Dame, Eli Bowen, Oklahoma love triangle thing they got going on?
Come on, Brandon. You just violated rule number 1. Never talk about a woman's age.
I know. That's why I took it back really quick. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how old they are because I don't know how old either one.
But no, with regard to the love triangle, as you called it, I really don't think you take 3 unofficial visits up to Oklahoma after committing to Notre Dame unless you're serious about Oklahoma as a consideration for your final commitment, for your signature.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing that we haven't talked about yet, and one angle that we haven't explored, is the reality that Peyton Bowen plays high school ball alongside Jackson Arnold. And Jackson Arnold is working Peyton Bowen so hard right now, as a matter of fact, that he's talking about rooming with Peyton Bowen in college. Like, that's how bad he wants Peyton Bowen at the University of Oklahoma. So when you throw that into the mix, obviously, Brandon, using Rusty Manziel's mantra, you follow the visits, right? And we're following the visits with Peyton Bowen, but you also got to keep in mind the Arnold factor. And Jackson Arnold has been a tremendous secondary recruiter thus far for Oklahoma, and he's helping lead the charge behind the scenes and recruiting his peers. Him, Ashton Cozart, Josh Bates have all been instrumental in making sure that there are more on the way in the class of 2023. Now, right now, I mean, I know I went out there and I made the prediction that Peyton Bowen was going to flip this past weekend, and man, it kind of felt like that might happen at a certain point, but alas, it did not. They emerged from the weekend at Oklahoma, still committed to Notre Dame, and now for me, it's that spring game date, because if Peyton Bowen goes to Notre Dame, then okay, you kind of hold the phone on all of it and you wait to see how things transpire over the couple of months thereafter. But if Peyton Bowen's in Norman on April 23rd, on the off chance he cancels the trip up to South Bend and comes up to Norman, man, I think that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah. I think so. I was talking to a Notre Dame source, and I think one thing that I was told was Notre Dame has told the Bowen family, take as many visits as you want, as long as you don't take an official visit somewhere. I think that is going to be the key, because I think Oklahoma is there to play the long game with Peyton Bowen and especially Eli Bowen. I think they want both of them very badly. They feel like both those guys are program guys that can come in and contribute one way or the other, because both are going to look. Eli can play on both sides of the ball. Obviously, he's liked at the cornerback position, but he can play both sides of the ball. Like we've watched him at 7-on-7. The dude can catch, he can run. When he gets the ball in his hand, you talk about twitchy. That dude can stop and go on a dime. So I think that Oklahoma's there to play that long game, but at the same time, how long do you play that long game? How long do you sit there and try to play catch up to the program that he's committed to? And do you take that commitment no matter what come National Signing Day? I think you do, because I think he's that good of a player. But we're not the ones calling the shots, and we don't know where Oklahoma stands with all this other talent come December and February. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be, I think April, May, June is going to be so telling for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail. It's not even funny.
All right, let's get to some of our viewer questions here. One viewer, I almost said listener because I'm used to doing radio, but one viewer asks, can we get an update on Nicholas Harbor and Mateo Uyunglele? I don't believe either of those guys have an offer right now from Oklahoma. Nicholas Harbor had an offer from the old staff. I do not believe, at least we have no record of him being re-offered by the new staff. And look, for those of you that saw the clip circulating on social media the other day of Nicholas Harbor running a 10.32 100-meter dash at 6'5", 235 pounds.
It's legit.
Look, in him and Mateo, you're talking about arguably the two best edge prospects in this entire class. And obviously guys like Keon Keeley are certainly in the mix, but there might not be a better overall athlete in the 2023 cycle than Nicholas Harbor. You know, for my money, there absolutely isn't, because you look at the way he moves for his size, there's nobody like him. He's a unicorn. And yeah, that would have been awesome to get that guy in an Oklahoma Sooners uniform if you're a Sooner fan. But once Jamar Cain hit the road, the odds of that happening kind of went out the window. So it is what it is. You move on. You hope that you can find somebody that ultimately can approximate the type of production that you're poised to get from Nicholas Harbor at the next level, because I think if there's a can't miss prospect in this class, that's about as close as you're going to get. He's just special. He's going to be an Olympic level track athlete. And you see
But that's
that
the thing though, too, for him. Like, you know what I mean? Like people are worried that he may pick track over football in the long run too. There's several programs
And
I know. That are
I
like
know
that.
this. I know this is a wholly unfair comparison, and I'm hesitant to even mention them in the same sentence. But he's almost reminiscent of Usain Bolt when you consider his size and the way that he runs. Like his strides are so long, and he's just so dominant in that 100-meter dash and moves so well that you almost figure, okay, is his ceiling higher in track than it is in football? Could he be an Olympic medalist one day as opposed to being a star on the gridiron? Now, again, I think in the long run, playing football at a high level is going to pay a lot better.
Unintended.
I see what you did there. I see what I did there. Unconsciously so, but yes. But no, Nicholas Harbor and Mateo Uyunglele not on the radar right now for Oklahoma. Another viewer asks, who do you think will be Levy's guy in 2024? Speaking of the quarterback position, of course.
I have a write-up coming tomorrow morning on that.
Really?
I do.
Oh, okay. Well, how about this?
My notes.
How about this then? We're not going to say anything more on that situation. And those of you that are VIPs over at ouinsider.com, you're going to get the full scoop from Brandon in about 12 hours here. And if you're not a VIP over at ouinsider.com, go sign up now and get your first month for $1. And you can find out what the situation is in the 2024 class at quarterback.
Parker.
There you go.
There he is.
I'll say this much. There are four names that we have mentioned on the podcast, on this live show, and in writing over the last couple of months as guys that are in the mix for Oklahoma at the quarterback position in 2024. I have a preference. Brandon has a preference, but ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to what Jeff Levy's preference is. And so that'll be interesting to monitor. I don't think we're too far off from seeing Oklahoma make an offer to a quarterback in the 2024 class. Now, if I'm Jeff Levy, to be honest, given the options on the table, I'm probably waiting at least until the first few games of the fall season when these guys hit the field for their junior years to see which one I really, really like the best. And there's a whole rationale behind that goes back to the Jackson Arnold, Jaden Rashada dichotomy. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, look, if Jeff Levy feels like he's got his guy at quarterback, then you're going to take Jeff Levy's word for it and you're going to trust his plan, because that's a guy that does he have an extensive career as an offensive mastermind and as a recruiter? Not necessarily, but from what we have seen from Jeff Levy in terms of his track record, in terms of his resume, you don't really have a concrete reason to doubt the guy at this point. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have it. So I have a write-up coming on a Lagway, and the 4-star quarterback out of Willis, Texas, and DJ Lagway, excuse me. And then to go with that, considering that Oklahoma has yet to offer a 2024 quarterback, or at least Jeff Levy hasn't, I broke down a couple of the guys and, the situation. And what I found funny or interesting about all that is the emphasis that Oklahoma is putting on the camps this year, and probably not so much this year, but moving forward. It's a very Clemson way of doing things, a very Georgia, very Alabama way of doing things, but it's also a way of doing things to where you make that offer mean more because the kid worked for it. The kid proved he has offers to all these other great schools, but to you, he proved it in front of you, which allows you to not only coach the kid, get to know the kid better on and off the field, but it makes the offer more genuine and not just transactional. It's a more of a relational offer because it was something that you both are all in on. So that's kind of in a roundabout way what I wrote about, and that's such a vague way of me discussing what I wrote about. But I really dive into that, and I also dive into 2025. There's some names out there that are, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you want to get to know.
Yes, there are.
There's a
And
lot of them.
2025 seems like a long way off, and it is,
Loaded.
but recruiting cycles come and go so much faster than
Another thing
we
I
can
put in there,
keep
yeah,
up with, Brandon. Like the
because
reality is,
2023 seemed so long ago, right? At
oh
one
my
point, it was like
goodness.
seemed so far away, and yet here
I
it
can,
is.
I can remember when Jacoby Johnson got his OU offer, and I was like, they offered a 2023 kid? That's so far away, but yet here we are. And we're talking about Jacoby Johnson and his peers in the 2023 class putting pen to paper 8 months from now. So,
Yeah.
Okay, back to audience questions. One viewer asks, what happened over the last month with By Job, Micah Tees, and Dylan Edwards? Felt like OU was leading and now seems like an even field. Now, I've gotten to know Dylan Edwards pretty well on the 7v7 circuit over the last couple of months. Obviously, both you and I, Brandon, have solid relationships with Micah Tees, but By Job, that's your dude. I mean, I'm pretty sure every one of our VIPs knows the story right now of how By Job rose to football prominence and how tied in you were with that whole situation. So I'll defer to you on that one. Give him the spiel with By Job, who is visiting Vanderbilt and Alabama later this week.
Yep. Yeah. So obviously he's going to take like both those programs. Vanderbilt has been more of a player than people really want to give them credit for. They have a couple of staffers that are not originally from the United States. So obviously By Job relates to that. And interestingly enough, we'll start with Alabama before I get into that, what I was going to say. Alabama is Alabama. And By's already visited Georgia. Georgia stands out more than everybody else outside of probably Oklahoma right now to him. They stand out because they win. They stand out because of facilities. They stand out because of the culture. And those are the type of things that Job is really looking for in a program, somebody that can help him break through that language barrier. Now, he speaks really good English, and he'll try to fool you and be like, I don't think I speak English very well. Yeah, he does. He speaks it very well. That's just a confidence thing with By. At the end of the day, he doesn't know football very well. So that's where that language barrier becomes an issue. So he's looking for a place that's going to help him, going to have somebody there that's like, look, this is what they're talking about. This is what they're trying to get you to do. This is the type of coverage that you need to be in. This is what the drops, all those type of things. He's got to be patient because not only is he still in a roundabout way learning the English language, he's learning football terminology. He's learning football verbiage. He's learning the game as a whole right now. We were at a 7-on-7 camp the other day, and he walks over to me and has me walk through him with, hand placement on breaking down press coverage and all that type of stuff. And it's not as fast as a process as it is a kid that's born and raised in America. So I had to be patient with him. Like, we were working our hands placement. We were doing some things over on the sideline talking about, because he knows I played wide receiver and at a high level. So he's asking me this, and this. So he goes out there and he does it, comes over. It's like, thank you so much. I need somebody that's going to be patient with me. And he always reiterates that. I need somebody that's going to be patient with me. And so I think at the end of the day, that's where his head's at. Yes, he wants to win. So obviously Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU, all those, Ohio State, Clemson, those are programs that are going to catch his eye. Like, they just are, because they're the big names. What little he knows about football, he knows those programs win. So that's going to be interesting to him. Number two, he's looking for comfortability. someplace that has other people like him that aren't just from America that, all universities do, but he wants people that have, other players that are from, maybe Nigeria or Senegal or places like that he can really relate to. Interestingly enough, Oklahoma has oh Owe or Awe, is it say Awe?
Uwe.
Uwe coming in, and he's originally from Nigeria. His brother, obviously, as well, originally from Nigeria. Both came over with hoop dreams. One didn't make it, but the one that didn't make it, it's just fine. He's an edge rusher for the Baltimore Ravens. So, I mean, it's just, the point being is that Oklahoma has that, but he's not on campus yet. The second, how do you say it again? Say it again for me. Uwe, Awe,
Uwe.
Uwe. And second, Uwe gets to campus. Who knows? Maybe they meet up, get to know each other, and maybe that's the thing that kind of puts Oklahoma over the top. Like, those are the things he's looking for. He's looking for relationships. He's looking for somebody that's going to be patient with him. He's looking for culture, winning, and just outside of football, people like him. Maybe they're in another sport. Maybe they're not. Just people he can relate to. So he's got a lot on his table. We'll see where it goes. I still think Oklahoma ends up being the pick at the end of the day, but it's far from a sure thing. Like, so far from a sure thing. Like, right now, I would say Georgia and Oklahoma are like neck and neck with each other, and maybe Georgia has a slight lead.
Okay, so as far as Micah Tease and as far as Dylan Edwards, man, the deeper we get into Micah Tease's recruitment, and I'd be curious to hear your feelings on this as well, Brandon, because I don't think we've talked about this specifically in a while. Man, Micah Tease looks more and more like he's legit wide open. And I'll continue to say it. I think there are a lot of parallels to the Gentry Williams situation. And if you'll recall, last year at this time, Gentry Williams, sure, he was still favoring OU, but USC was up there. Florida was up there. He was still talking to Arkansas. Now, I think the discrepancy therein is that Gentry Williams still had a pretty small group of schools that he was heavily considering. And for the most part, from about April or May on, it was OU, USC, Florida kind of hanging there in the background, and that was pretty much it. But USC made a big surge in June when they got him out there on campus. OU had to stem the tide and ultimately ended up getting the commitment from Gentry in October, which was a credit to the former staff at Oklahoma for being able to do what they did and dig themselves back out of that hole. But for Micah Tease, man, he's got far more considerations on the table, far more schools that he's seriously weighing than Gentry Williams did at this stage in the recruitment process. And, it's interesting. There's a lot of different ways this could be interpreted. To me, I would say, look, the optimist's take on this, Brandon, is that, well, Micah watched his brother Miles walk on at Oklahoma, never really got to enjoy the recruiting process, never got to take all the visits. So maybe now that it's his turn, he's just making the most of the process. And at the end of the day, he's going to loop back around, realize where his heart has been all along, and he'll be an Oklahoma Sooner with his teammate, Gentry Williams. Now, the pessimist's take on it is, well, there's some disagreement between Micah and the Oklahoma staff as to where he's going to play. Mike has maybe taken it for granted, or I guess people have maybe taken it for granted that Micah was going to be a Sooner all this time. And now maybe he wants to look anywhere but Oklahoma for a while and just see what else is out there on the table, and wants to visit as many places as he can, make sure he's making the right choice for himself as a football player from a holistic standpoint. And gosh, Oklahoma's lost the lead, and who knows if they can dig back into it. That's the pessimist's take. So where do you fall on that, Brandon? Because to me, I would say if I had to put chips in the middle as to where Micah Tease ultimately ends up, I think those chips probably are still with OU. But at the same time, it is by no means a sure thing right now as I see it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, look, And I know people are going to be going, golly, man, these guys are so negative. I thought this was like positive stuff going on with OU recruiting. Folks, things are going very well for OU on the recruiting trail. You don't see it up front, but it's there. Like it's there. And as Parker said, the avalanche is coming. It's coming. It's just slowly building momentum. And when it does, it's going to break, and it's going to break fast. But that said, with Micah Tees, I'm with you on that. Like with both things, I think, and I'll just say it because I don't really care. Like there's some folks around him that are in his ear and kind of swaying things here or there. I know you understand what I'm talking about, but I mean, it is what it is. You know, at the end of the day, most people want him at Oklahoma, but he has to figure that out himself. And it's going to take time. You're talking about kids. Kids are very, very swayable, I guess is the word I'm going to look for. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm going to use it. Swayable. And what I mean by that is they're going to have somebody over here, good guy, and then they're going to have bad guy over here, or vice versa. You know, it doesn't matter from a neutral standpoint. You can flip flop them depending on who you're cheering for, right? So, oh, you need to go here. No, you need to do this, this, and this. And they're going to lean this way, and they're going to lean that way, and people are going to pull, and they're going to tug, and they're going to do all sorts of things to these kids. And at the end of the day, the kid's going to eventually break, and he's going to put his foot down, and he's going to say, we're doing it my way here. And this is how I'm going to do it. And this is how this recruitment is going to go. It's a lot like Gentry Williams. Gentry Williams' recruitment was a lot like that. As he talked, I mean, it really was. You had people in his ear trying to get him to go take visits here, and here. You had other people in his ear going, why are you doing that? Blah, blah, blah. I can't count how many times, and Gentry can vouch for this. He called me going, dude, what do I do? And I'm like, not my problem. That's your problem. Like, that's not we can't tell you what to do. Like, that's not what we do. But he's wanting somebody to talk to that doesn't care where he goes because everybody else does. And that's where these kids are. Parker, you can vouch for this. There are so many times these kids will call us just for advice because everybody else they talk to has some sort of selfish interest in it, right? In what they're looking for. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yes, I mean, that's an entirely fair way to put it. And
I mean, it is. It's the truth.
That's one of the things that makes the recruiting process so difficult.
Yeah.
And that's why so many guys aren't fans of it, is because everybody around you has their own designs on where you're going to go. And some will push harder than others in that regard, but man, everybody has a different idea of what your best fit is, what you need at the next level, what program is going to provide you with the best or the most holistic experience. And it's tough to navigate all of that, especially when you're 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
And you're very easily swayed and you're susceptible to the ebb and flow of emotion when it's being influenced by people who are older than you or people whom you trust. So yes, that is something that makes the recruitment process very, very difficult. And that's something that I think Micah Tees and a lot of guys in this 2023 class are navigating. I think we're still at the point, Brandon, where we have some guys in this 2023 cycle. I think by the time 2024 rolls around, it'll be all but history. But there's still guys in the 2023 cycle whose recruitments have been impacted by COVID-19 to a certain extent. That's important to remember as well. That changed the game in a big way for quite a while. So again, that is another thing to keep in mind. And recruiting is not nearly as cut and dried as many would like to believe. Not nearly as cut and dried as the casual fan would like to think. It's not, okay, you visit X school, visit Y school, visit Z school, make a decision between them. No, that's what you see. That might be all you see, but everything that's going on beneath the surface is leaps and bounds more intricate and more complicated.
It's choppy underneath the surface. I'll tell you that. I mean,
now
it's like that duck, right? That's like flowing, like it looks all nice and smooth underneath.
And
It's
then
like,
the legs are just churning.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's really what it is.
That's pretty much what it is. Now, as far as Dylan Edwards, here's what I can say about Dylan. And like I said, this is a kid that I've gotten to know pretty well on the 7-on-7 circuit over the last couple months. And I always walk away so impressed with him every time I watch him, because there's just nobody that can match the kid stride for stride. I mean, he was running a 4.43 official 40-yard dash as a freshman in high school. That's ridiculous speed. Like, that type of speed, you don't see that very often. That's Tyreek Hill level speed right there. As long as you continue to grow and improve and hone your craft to the point where you're knocking off a 10th or even 100th here and there. But not many kids, Brandon, are running a 4.43 in the 40 as a freshman in high school. Hell, most guys never run a 4.43 in the 40 at all. So to have that kind of speed and to just have that innate God-given ability to move, that's the one thing that Dylan Edwards has that really sets him apart. Now, I will say this, the concerns, and these concerns are pretty widespread, the concerns about him mostly have to do with his size. He's listed at 5'9", Brandon. He's not 5'9". I can tell you that much. He's not 5'9". He's a lot closer to 5'7", and that might be plus hair. So he is small. The other concern is that his frame is very slight, particularly on the lower half. He's not compact like a Deuce Vaughn, for instance. So,
do you remember Michael Thornton at OU back in the day?
How long ago was that?
Running back. 1999. It was the first.
That was the year I was born,
started.
Brandon. So, no, I don't.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, so here's another thing I'll bring up though, and I said this on the radio today. There's a fellow of similar stature by the name of Quentin Griffin that turned out to be pretty dang good at the University of Oklahoma. So you can be small in stature and still be a game breaker at the running back position. Now, again, a lot of people are concerned about Dylan Edwards' ability to hold up physically at the next level because he's not much more than 5'7", 165, if that. I'm not as concerned as I think a lot of people are, because I think when you have that type of speed, man, your problems take care of themselves to a certain extent. Nobody's talking about handing the ball to Dylan Edwards 25 times a game. He's not going to be a 3-down bell cow running back. He's going to be the type of guy that you move all over the field to create mismatches. He touches the ball 7 to 10 times per game, and he's a home run threat and a threat to go all the way every single time he touches the ball on those 7 to 10 plays every game. And he's somebody that the defense has to make sure they account for, because if you give him an inkling of space, he's going to take advantage of it. And he's not just fast, he is extremely elusive in the open field. It's part of what helped make him the Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year in 2021 as a junior. So I really like Dylan Edwards as a prospect, and I understand that the size is a concern to many, but I also think, look, there is a reason why Tyreek Hill, Brandon, there's a reason why Tyreek Hill was able to make the transition at the NFL level from return specialist to 6-time Pro Bowl wide receiver. And the reason is speed. If you can run,
speed kills. Yep.
If you can run, man, sometimes that's all you need. And for a kid like Dylan Edwards, man, I'm convinced that's all he needs. So as far as his recruitment is concerned, OU's still kind of in the catbird seat in my eyes. Kansas State is going to be a factor. His dad, Leon, played at Kansas State from 1992 to 1994. However, that itself is working in OU's favor as well, because Kansas State had a couple assistants at the time by the names of Bob Stoops and Brent Venables. So those relationships are working to OU's advantage as much as they're working to Kansas State's advantage. He's going to visit Texas A&M here soon. I'm not entirely sure whether Texas A&M is going to offer. Some part of me believes that if they were, they would have already, because they've been in touch with Edwards for about the last month or so, and he's already been down there to College Station on a visit. So I don't know if they're trying to maybe keep him warm or what the case may be. He said he wants to visit Washington. He wants to visit Nebraska. He wants to visit Jackson State. But he also said recently that, look, it's getting to about that time where he's going to cut his list down. He's going to schedule his officials. And then once he takes his officials, he's going to make his commitment. It will be interesting to see how the running back room shapes up at Oklahoma around Dylan Edwards. And you do have to look at the external factors with this type of deal. I don't think it's a secret that the Sooners lead for Trey Wisner. Trey Wisner for about the last year or so has been, I don't want to say OU or bust, but most everyone across the industry would agree and acknowledge that the Sooners have been in the best spot for Trey Wisner for a long, long time. So if he's one of the running backs that Oklahoma takes in the 2023 class, who else is there? Because you're probably only taking one additional back at that point. And that's
not Richard Young.
And that is where the whole Richard Young thing comes into play as well. Because look, OU is going to get an official from Richard Young. From where I stand, and Brandon, I'm sure you'd agree, I find it really hard to believe that Richard Young's going to end up playing ball at Oklahoma. I'm legitimately going to have to see that to believe it.
Hey, man, I think DeMarco's a great recruiter.
Now he is.
I think, yeah, the family members, he has family members that live in Alabama. He's been to Alabama umpteen times. I mean, I don't know what more to say. If it's not going to be Alabama, Ohio State or Florida are going to be the pick. Like, I think those are the three schools.
Yeah, and I would agree. I don't foresee Oklahoma ending up with Richard Young. If they can, that's a coup, man. Straight up. But if you don't get Richard Young, who else is on the board at that point at the running back position? You're looking at Cedric Baxter, Justice Haynes, neither of whom have visited Oklahoma. Dylan Edwards may return to Oklahoma this weekend. That would be his second visit in the past 10 weeks. So if you get him back on campus and you continue to leverage the relationships you got with Brent Venables, then maybe you don't have to put any additional thought into your recruiting at the running back position. Maybe it's Trey Wisner and Dylan Edwards, and boom, you shut it down. Those are your two guys. You don't got to worry about it for the last few months of the recruiting cycle. But Richard Young, man, that could be the fly in the ointment if Oklahoma still wants to pursue him, still believes they have a chance with him, and kind of puts the cool on Dylan Edwards until they have a concrete sense of where Richard Young's going to end up.
I think I'm interested to see where Dalen Smothers ends up too. He's newly offered. We haven't heard a lot of stuff about him since he picked up the offer. I mean, is he quietly kind of creeping like somebody that might show up for the spring game? Like, that's the other offer that's out there. We don't know much about him, if anything at all. And he was offered like a month and a half ago at most.
Yeah, it hasn't been, I don't think, even that long.
Not even weeks. That. No. Yeah. No, not even that. How about 14 days? Like,
yeah, so there you go.
I mean, like, it's another name to watch.
Somebody watching asked about Kamar Wheaton. No, never, ever. No.
Like, everybody wishes him well, but it's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen at OU. I can tell you that much.
But we also said that about Justin Harrington.
Okay, true, but Justin Harrington was already on campus and enrolled.
That's fair.
Like,
that's
they,
fair.
They didn't
that's
have to go
that's
recruit
fair.
Justin Harrington. Justin Harrington beat down the door to come back.
Yeah, he did. He begged and pleaded and finally got his way. He did.
Yeah,
you talk about somebody that did everything he like. People go to extremes to get what they want, to prove that that's what they want. Oh, you made Justin Harrington do that. Like, it was interesting. And for him to come back and do what he's doing, I think is, you got to like it. You got to give respect there. Now, if he holds out and ends up playing, go ahead.
Yeah. From what I saw of Justin Harrington in practice on Friday, obviously it's a knee-jerk reaction when you're only talking about seeing a dude for half an hour on the field. But from what I did see, that looks like a dude that's motivated to make the most of the second chance he's been given. and he's going to have to earn it. He doesn't have a scholarship right now. He's been stripped of his jersey number for all intents and purposes. He is on the same level on the totem pole as a walk-on, but he's also 6'3", 214 pounds, and was the number one JUCO safety in America in the class of 2020. So
has Olympic speed too.
If anybody can work their way back and make a name for themselves at the University of Oklahoma after it looked like they may never play football again and end up lost in the portal vortex, it's going to be Justin Harrington. And I am excited to see how he progresses this spring. He does not look like he has a whole lot of rust to shake off. He looks like a guy that stayed in football shape throughout the 6 months that he was in the transfer portal. And that is a guy that can be an X factor on defense for Oklahoma in 2022, in the sense that you don't expect him to be part of the picture. At least he's not being talked about right now as one of the guys that'll be in the picture. But if he can make a leap and contribute, just another arrow in the quiver for Brent Venables.
Let me throw this out here okay, folks, it's totally hypothetical and probably the most it's very outlandish too, but it would be the freakiest defensive backfield in OU history. Let's say you have Justin Harrington and Keith Lawrence as your safeties. Okay. You follow me? Okay.
Tracking.
Woody Washington is one of your corners. All right. Your other corner would be, your other corner. Well, let's go nickel. Your nickel would be, oh my gosh, I'm trying to find a 6'2", 6'3" kid off the top of my head. Jordan Mukes. Let's say, okay, let's move Jordan Mukes back to one of the safeties, and we'll have Harrington as your nickel. Okay.
Fair. Okay.
You have Woody Washington as your one corner. Your other cornerback, Jaden Rowe. How freaky would that be?
I can tell you this much: if they jammed on every single snap,
they're all Olympic speed guys too, outside of
Woody
exactly.
Like, man, I'm not sure the opponent would be able to complete a pass. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic, but those dudes all together in the same secondary, that would be a sight to behold. Because
you remember there was a day those
linebacker physiques.
Yeah, remember there was a day there was never guys like that, not one on the roster. We just
last year, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, they were on the roster last year too, but I mean.
Oh, okay. I was thinking starting lineup, but yes, there was a time when there were no such defensive backs on the roster.
No, I mean, and we didn't even name Robert Spears Jennings. Who else is long?
Bryson Washington got some size.
Bryson Washington, Gentry Williams at 6'1", 185 pounds, 90 pounds. I mean,
Josh
Eaton. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like everybody's freaking DJ Graham at 6 foot, 6'1". I mean, like that wasn't even heard of back in the day. Now we can name like 8 or 9 dudes across the board with Oklahoma that are just long, rangy athletes.
Yeah.
Hey, different time. DJ Hicks. What is this rumor about him getting shot in the leg? Like, what is this thing that people keep asking?
That was just some message board BS from someone that misunderstood a news headline. Not worth talking about. Rumors.
Okay.
Nothing more, nothing founded. But yeah, I mean, nothing really new on the DJ Hicks front, I would say. OU A&M, that's what it looks like it's going to be, unless somebody else makes a surge. But we are running up on an hour here.
Omosigho real quick.
Oh, yes.
Omosigho.
Samuel Omosigho. I mean, look, I entered the crystal ball because to me, that's a Brent Venables football player, if there ever was one. The kid skipped the Under Armour All-American next camp to go to church.
Yep, and they like him at kind of a hybrid safety linebacker type. He'd be listed more as a linebacker, I believe, according to what I think he's actually told me that. So, and then finally, David Hicks. Well, the recruitment of him. I'm going to see him while I'm in Dallas this week. So, and may actually stay back on Monday and go and talk to him. So I'm going to find out a little more, see if there's some visits coming up, talk with him and his dad. They plan on getting back this month. I don't know the date. We'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if they quietly show up here in the next week or two. Just throwing that out there. So we'll see.
All right. Well,
yeah.
If y'all have enjoyed the information that we have dished your way over the last hour plus, let me tell y'all, it is a drop in the bucket compared to what you get as an OU Insider VIP member, with full access to the message boards, insider notes, VIP recruiting information, team stuff. You get unprecedented OU access with the OU Insider VIP subscription. So as I mentioned earlier, join right now, get your first month for $1. If at the end of the month you don't think it's worth your money, by all means, go your merry way. But hey, if you like the information you're being fed, re-up with us for an annual subscription, and we will keep you up to date on the daily about everything OU football and OU recruiting, everything that is happening behind the scenes or in the public eye with regard to this Oklahoma football program. We got you covered.
You said it best. $1 for the first month, $9.95 afterwards. If you don't want to do a whole year, right now $75 will get you a whole year. Plus, you get Paramount Plus, which is a whole $99.99 for that. So I mean, essentially, you get $218 worth for $75 in value. If you sign up right now. If you don't want to sign up, we'll be doing a 50% off, getting closer to spring games. So if you want to hold out for that, but you will not get Paramount Plus with that, just letting you know. So Paramount Plus is worth the extra, $25, $30 that you pay, because you're essentially saving what, $60, $70 total with that. And I mean, it's just worth it in the end. Like, you save a bunch of money. Anyways, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching the latest version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners YouTube Live. For Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe, my name is Brandon Drumm. You guys have a blessed night.